Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, let me see if I can turn the light on now. Yeah, I can. If I have it in the ultra wide mode on this camera, I can't use the built-in lighting feature. Where's the It's on and that's off. So we really don't need it right now, but I just wanted to talk about I'll tie knives into this also. Like you see a bunch of radios, and they go, "Oh, nice, into the radio mode." Yeah, I'm still kind of, sort of into the radio mode. I'm getting out of it because I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, which was this is another rabbit hole that you can go down, and that is shortwave radios or transceivers. Both of those are a different type of branch. If you just want to listen, there's this path you can go down, where you get radios with stuff, and it's just for listening. It's not for transmitting. This probably won't even come on. What I've noticed about this one is just sitting there. It's got parasitic drain of some type, and this battery will run down. Just sitting there, not doing anything. It already has a small battery to begin with, but that switch doesn't cut everything off when you switch it off, at least on mine. But anyway, the thing is, I've noticed it with traditional knives. See, we got all these radios, and I throw knives in there. With traditional knives, it's kind of different from the trend of the latest and greatest, and that's kind of the theme behind this. It's the latest and greatest thing. The latest and greatest is not always better. A lot of times they offer new features and they offer new things, but they're not necessarily better than something that you already have, that's already existing. If your whole purpose was to listen to shortwave radio, this will do it, and it'll do it cheaply. There are a lot of howevers and ifs and ands or buts and stuff about it. But the odd thing about a lot of this stuff nowadays is, used to be inside these radios, it was filled with components and wires and individual stuff, capacitors and tuning coils and everything. Now, most of this stuff is just a little board. It's just a little tiny board. A lot of this stuff is just a chip. And they found that, hey, we can incorporate this into one of these. Just get a little bit more room, throw another antenna in there, circuit, and boom. They can add Bluetooth, they can add GPS. It's the latest and greatest. Now, this has always been this way on technology. Anytime you try to go after the latest and greatest and everything, you're always going to be slightly behind the curve, because whatever comes out on the market is the latest and greatest out on the market. But if it's in a ongoing industry like computers and stuff like that, by the time the latest and greatest is out, there's already something much better in the works. And with Chinese radios and stuff, that's usually what happens. Chinese transceivers and stuff. The latest and greatest, that a lot of times some of them will listen to the customers and start improving things, like spurious emissions. If you don't know what that is, that's just like, if you say you're going to be transmitting on this one frequency, and all your power is going to be going off to this one frequency, and then all of a sudden when you actually test it, it's going off that frequency and this frequency and this and that. And what happens when you spread your power off everywhere is the amount of usable power that you want on that frequency gets diminished, and the other channels that don't want to hear that stuff are going to get interference. And that's why they were loved and hated, by the ham operators and stuff. They hated the Baofengs with spurious emissions and stuff. Well, after a while, eventually, they got around to where they started improving it, and they put filters in and stuff. There's ways of fixing that, It's just, what do you want? And on this case, they were trying to flood the market with cheap, inexpensive radios that would do something. And I don't know how they got past there's if you have anything's going to transmit, it's supposed to pass an FCC regulation, that it's not going to cause interference. You see this on everything, like warning, this, passes this, that it will not interfere with radios or TVs or pacemakers or whatever, and you know how it is with the the Chinese and laws and regulations and stuff. It's like, yeah, those are your laws and regulations, but our laws are different. And our laws are, we're going to make whatever we want to make, and if we can get away with it, we're going to get away with it. And that's the way it has been for quite a while. But they started improving the radios, and they started adding features that weren't there before, like the ability to receive aircraft transmissions, different bands and stuff like that. And a lot of those are restricted and not used for a reason, because that's how you get your digital satellite transmissions or stuff, or that's how aircraft use that particular frequency. I saw one conversation. I mean, I was looking at a bunch of different videos about radios and stuff, and one of them, when he was complaining about this, says, look, this could interfere with an aircraft collision avoidance system if needed at that time and stuff like that. All right. You're really stretching, you're really grasping for straws on stuff like that, because aircraft are way the hell up there. These things don't have that much power. And what kind of interference are they going to cause on that? I can understand both sides of it, but really when you have to go to extremes on things to make your point, a lot of times you got a weak point. But in this case, I mean, it's a valid thing about spurious emissions and stuff like that. And what that is that every transmission on frequency stuff are going to have the main frequency, and then there's going to be harmonics, and they can go out there a few ways, and it's that way with every transmission. The thing is, there's usually filters and stuff built in to prevent those harmonics from being as big, because you're wasting power, really. Unless you're doing something on those sidebands, like sending a data signal or something like that, you usually don't want those that powerful, because you don't want to interfere with the other frequencies. That's part of what you want. Anyway, I know we're getting into a lot of technical stuff about this, but the rabbit hole that I was getting down into was, all right, these things are good, but a radio that has shortwave and everything else in it is even better. Well, when I got this thing, I wasn't going for the latest and greatest. I was just looking around and I said, wow, I was in the shortwave mode of expanding this beyond really what it needed to be. I mean, yeah, this is manual tuning, and there's a lot of advantages to digital tuning and everything. To me, this is the almost epitome of what you would want. It's missing something that a lot of people like, and that's upper and lower sideband capability. And that opens up different areas of... The main thing I was thinking about this is communication that is basically unfiltered. All right, if you go through a radio station and stuff like that, they have terms of service just like anything else. If you watch something on a YouTube video and stuff like that, they have terms of service. You can and cannot say certain things or do certain things. On a radio, if you're talking to another human being, they can say and do whatever they want. They can talk about whatever they want. It's unfiltered. Now, a lot of times it's just, it's nothing super important, I mean, they're just talking about the equipment they have and the antennas they're using and the weather maybe, and if they know each other, they'll talk about their family or something, I mean, it's almost like listening to someone's personal conversation, but it's being broadcast, so they should know that everybody in the world can hear them if they wanted to. The reason why a lot of this shortwave and radio listening stuff was going away is because of the quality of the reception. You really have to boost it up to get good reception on these things on shortwave a lot of times, and that is just the nature of what you're dealing with. I mean, the way it's getting out there is it's bouncing off the ionosphere, and the Earth is rotating, and the ionosphere is going different. There's a lot of stuff going on with the propagation of radio frequencies and stuff. And if you're chasing the latest and greatest on everything, it's always going to be elusive. You're never going to get it. And so for myself, I have to. It's kind of like gambling and stuff in poker. You just have to know when to stop. You have to know when to stop chasing it. If you're on a losing streak or whatever, or you've gained what. In my condition like this, it's like, all right, I've explored a subject that I used to really have a lot of interest in and everything. Things have changed now a little bit, but I've explored this topic thoroughly, and that's usually what I do. I mean, it may annoy some people, and they say, God, I thought this was a knife channel. It is, and I try to incorporate knives into stuff, but I mean, when I'm in something, when I'm in a particular mode, that's what I'm into, and oh man, it's hard for me to break out of that. In between that, there's been the weather. The weather has been affecting me. Then there's the physical things going on. That chigger attack. It did more than just physically wear me down. It made me a lot more aware of how much older I'm getting. And I'm no spring chicken anymore. It's like they would basically say it. So, yeah, I just try to have fun and enjoy myself. I get a lot of emails and stuff from sponsors. They're telling me, oh, we really enjoyed your fill in the blank. You can tell it's a form letter, if you've ever seen a form letter before, where what they're talking about does not apply to anything specifically in any specific videos. Like, we really enjoyed your content or whatever, and we would like to work with you to offer your viewers a water filter or this or that. If it's a knife, it's not something I would want to recommend to you guys and stuff. And I don't go with those things, even though I could get a free one and you could offer your viewers a X number of discount. Guess what that is? That's more like commercializing stuff. And I understand that advertising is necessary for the platform to operate. My personal thought is that YouTube pushed it a little too hard with because used to be you could have the choice of not running mid-roll ads. And now you still do, but by default, it's going to just throw them in there, and you have to physically go in and change it a lot of times. And something like a rain video or something like that, I'll deselect it so that it won't interrupt you in theory, but they can still do it. But anyways, chasing the latest and greatest, like I said, is always going to be elusive. There's always going to be the next thing, and if you get the very first one, it's going to cost you a lot more money. And there's going to be bugs, and there's going to be issues that have to be fixed that can be fixed with hardware later on that you're never going to be able to fix unless you crack it open and get into it. So, I mean, you're taking a lot of risk when you are the first in everything. And sometimes you get lucky. There's a lot of demand for these things. And to me, it reminds me, and we're tying this back into knives and stuff, is where that's kind of the way I went with knives, where when I first got into the channel and everything, I was really back into what have I been missing out on folding knives and flippers and stuff, and a lot had been going on since I had thought it's just a knife is a basic tool that's not going to change. Well, that's a traditional knife if you think about it, but even traditional knives have changed a lot now, where there's modern traditionals and there's knives that are traditional looking but are not being made in a traditional way other than being by hand. But I mean, there's good and bad to all of that. So my thought is that as far as like just an update on shortwave radios and what's going on with me and everything. Uh, Again, it's the weather is sometimes I just got to sit in here and just be cool because outside, even stepping out on a balcony with the humidity and everything. Yesterday, the heat index, it was only like 97 degrees here. I'll try to convert that into Celsius or centigrade when uh, I edit this. But the heat index was 107. So I mean, when you physically when you step out of there, it's like you're stepping into a sauna room or a steam bath. Really, it's just like boom, you just get hit with this heat and humidity, and if there is any breeze, it's just blowing out all over you. And it's like, oh my god. So I come in and I just goof around and listen to the radios and stuff. And one of the things I found out by accident with the shortwave radio was where I'm sitting is the worst place for cell phone reception, shortwave radio, just that physical spot where that chair is at. I swear, man, I can just turn my head. My digital antenna receiver and everything is out on the balcony and up above a door. So it shouldn't have anything to do with that. But I can just turn my head and affect certain channels and stuff. So, mine's broadcast TV is what I'm picking up. And they're digital. They all went over to digital channels nowadays. But it'll receive both, even though nothing's happening on the analog frequency bands. But the thing is, a lot of these things are interesting and useful if you're into that. And as far as like knives and stuff like that, that's why there's a traditional crowd and there's the flipper crowd, and a lot of times people will cross into both. I'm one of those that I like fixed plates too. I mean this is what I'm carrying right now, the bigger Kaiser, just because I can, and it's on me and I like it. I like the little one too. The little one is much better for carrying around, and everywhere day-to-day use because it's so unobtrusive. But I like the way it feels in the hand and everything, the grip, just a bigger size. And then for some reason I'm still into the harpoon shapes. I carry around the K-bar, the BK-18 harpoon. I carry that thing around on a little clip. So I don't chase after traditional knives that much anymore, even though there are plenty of, modern knives, even though there are plenty of them out there. I tend to go with the more traditional knives when I'm looking at knives, and right now I'm not really into looking to getting any more of them, but I will get back into knives. I'm just saying, even if I have to just show the ones I've got, which I've got plenty, there's always going to be more new knives that I want. Traditional knives, same way. It's just I'm trying to get by with what I've got on everything, and with the radios, I'm not going to try to do this. Go after the latest and greatest one, because Radtel's even got one of these called the 920 that they're coming out with, that if you get them on AliExpress and stuff and you're in a different country, you can get them fairly cheap, like 30 pounds, 40 pounds, stuff like that. Here in America, because of what we're have going on, I still don't know. My last radio that I ordered, the TID Radio H3 that I ordered, the H3 Plus, has passed customs, but I still haven't gotten a bill. I don't know what they do. I have no idea how the new tariffs apply to something that you ordered from China. But I just did it, and it passed customs. So I think from there, the company that sold it to you contacts you, or the carrier, or the post office, or customs. Somebody is going to contact me and want the money for. It should be 30%. My order was like $56 or something like that, so I'm figuring, I don't know, $20, $30? 50% would have been $25. So 30%'s got to be I don't know. Like I said, anyways, I'll find out. I'll let you know. And after that, I got a translucent one. Just because it's goopy looking, you can see through it, and the lights when it comes on will glow. I'm crazy about stuff like that. Anyways, thank you for enduring with this. I'll try to do more videos. Like I said, I've just been in one of those modes, where everything gets to me. The weather, physical, mental, all kinds of stuff. But I'm making it through. I'll survive. I'll get through. And I miss talking to you about anything, I mean, not just knives, but about anything. Because when I don't make videos, it's like, this is a lot of times is my only interaction with other humans. A lot of times is these videos. So that's the way it goes when you get old. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.